people don't care about how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Yeah, I pride myself on being transparent with students. I'm very vocal about my failures and like my upbringing and the hardships and adversities. And the fact that I'm able to do that, students see me as a real person who can be vulnerable.
I do believe that getting creative with the funding and bringing in programs that can still meet the kids at the point of their need, but not putting so much extra stress on the school itself.
You have to use communication as a skill to get what it is that you want out of life.
This person is doing all of this and bringing this information to us, but he was once us, you know, and feel like they can definitely relate.
Because they didn't have a vision for life after high school. Now they just thinking like, man, I'm not accepted to no colleges. I don't got no jobs. I don't know what I want to do.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Jazmin J, and we are back for another episode of Business Talks with Jazmin J. Here on this platform, I like to talk to founders and CEOs from the real estate, technology, nonprofit, and entertainment industries. And I like to have authentic conversations where we really talk about what it looks like to run these agencies on a daily basis. So today, I have a special guest. I'm excited about this conversation because he's an advocate for the youth, and I am too. So I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation. But today's guest is a dynamic educator and speaker and founder who's dedicated to empowering students from the classroom to the college campus. Sterling Mark is the founder of Sterling Empowerment, an educational consulting company that equips students, educators, and institutions with the tools to thrive. So, how you doing today, Sterling? Welcome to Business Talks with Jazmin J.
Yes, I am doing amazing. I'm in this wonderful space, so definitely excited to see everything you've created here. So
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you. So, I'm ready to dive into. Take us back. What led you to create Sterling Empowerment, and how did your own journey shape your mission of what you're doing today?
Well, I'll have to just kind of take you back to my first corporate experience. My first corporate experience, I identified that, I really wasn't prepared for the corporate politics that came with being in corporate America. And then that really led me to writing my first book, Pass the Torch, which was a student success workbook and guide. And I just saw it as an opportunity to share my failures and experiences with that transition, not just from college to corporate, but high school to college as well. And providing them with some foundational knowledge that they need in order to make that smooth transition. And so that book led into me starting a company, and that company has led to programs and just evolving into other things.
Definitely. So I want to talk about just the idea of starting a book, right? Because you talked about the transition to corporate and all the things that you learned, which led to you creating a book. Mm-hmm. Why a book, though? What made you say, well, let me put this as a book, other than just, people, It's several ways people get information out, but I'm just curious to understand why a book, because I just think that was genius.
Well, interesting enough, I had, like Martin Luther King, I had this dream, and I was speaking, and in this dream I was speaking, and the whole crowd, they left after I spoke, and I realized they left with nothing tangible in their hands, nothing to refer back to.
Yeah.
And that next day, I literally realized that, I really need to write a book, and everything that I want to do, just put it in there, because that's something that could, be here long after I'm gone. And not to mention, I had one of my line brothers, shout out to my brother, Blake Simon. He was one of the first people who I'd known who was a self-published author. And I'd never heard of somebody close to me becoming an author. And it kind of motivated me and inspired me as well.
So all the people around you, when you told them that you were coming out with a book, like maybe your family, like you say, the people closest to you, your friends, what was everybody's reaction?
I mean, truthfully, I don't think I gave the information out to get a reaction. Truthfully,
right.
I think when I did it, it was just more so to do what I felt was meant, what I was meant to do. I mean, just being honest, where I come from, Lufkin, Texas, across the tracks, country ghetto.
Lufkin, Texas.
Yeah, it's not. everybody not gonna see that vision. You know, you don't have people becoming authors coming from that type of lifestyle. And so I'm very I guess intentional when it comes to sharing like goals and ideas, because I understand that everybody may not see the bigger picture. And you know, sometimes when you give people your dreams and give people your vision, you get them opportunity to shoot it down as well.
Definitely.
And yes, people close to you shoot it down, it can like hit home a little harder. So it wasn't something that I like seek validation from my friends or family, because I know I was walking a path that many of them didn't understand or could visualize.
I know that's right. Go on, drop them gems. All right, so let's talk about education, entrepreneurship, and empowerment. Building Sterling Empowerment. What was the spark behind Sterling Empowerment, and how has it evolved over the years?
I would say the spark was when I first started my first ever after school program. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, and it was a lady who works in Aldine, not Aldine, A-Leaf, and she was making me aware that, hey, if you want to work with us, you got to become an approved vendor. And so she
You
showed
was like,
me,
what is that?
yeah, right, well, approved vendor. I'm just trying to come up here and do a program. And so she showed me the ropes to become an approved vendor. And since then, I've been able to take that model and, apply to be approved vendors for multiple districts. And so that one program, that was really the spark, because while I was in there, I was able to see that the kids also needed social emotional learning, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. And I wanted to do it in a way where it shows the correlation and relationship between the three, which is how Kidpreneur Dreams came about. And I then created a Nearpod course that's aligned with that book. And so that's digital and interactive. And so that's all started leading to other things.
So what was that experience like for you? So she told you, hey, have to become an approved vendor. Then you start, figuring out, okay, I've got to set my company up, these, this, and that. What was that like? Did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel like this is moving faster than I expected it to move? Or were you just getting the information and applying it?
I would say I probably was just getting information and applying it. I would say funny thing is, after my first ever program, COVID hit.
Dang.
And then we could no longer have in person or anything. And so my company kind of had to, I don't say shut down, but pause temporarily, because there was no in-person communication or program. So
what did you do during that time? Because I think that's a big thing to talk about, especially in business, because we have these plans or we have these goals and we're doing it, and then life happens,
Yeah.
something that's out of our control, and it changes the trajectory of our business during that time. How did you handle that?
Well, one thing that many people learn is you have to identify when you have to pivot.
Yeah.
And for me at that time, I was like, okay, how can I still do what I love doing, which is impact, but also still, have some sort of funds, income coming in, but still not get too far away from what it is that I love doing. And interesting enough, I just met a guy named Mike Ewan. He was a program director at the Boys and Girls Club. And so they just had an opening for the Houston Texans team club,
Okay.
as a director. And so I was able to get that position, and it was right on time, and it pivoted me, but also it allowed me to see how national mentoring organizations operate.
Yeah.
But then also the community engagement and, community partnerships and those things. A lot of things I could take and instill in my own business.
Definitely. You've worked with students of all ages. How do you tailor your approach for elementary kids to college students? Because they all have different needs, right? What someone in elementary may need or how they connect to things is different from someone in high school that's getting ready to go to college. So how do you make sure that everything that you're doing, it reaches the proper audience that you're targeting?
Most importantly, just meeting them where they at.
Yeah.
We all, a lot of times students, they see the finished product of who we are now, but one of the things I pride myself on being able to do is to put myself in their shoes and show them me when I was their age, and, share the failures and the things. But then also, for elementary, for example, there's the opportunity for them to be very, very creative and curious. So I make sure that they're being curious and exploring career paths. While if I'm talking to a college student, let's make sure we're exploring career paths that are aligned with the degree
Yeah,
that you are pursuing.
definitely.
High school, let's make sure that you are taking career aptitude tests to make sure you're aligned on the next 2 to 3 years. So just making sure I have a tailored approach where I can be intentional with that student where they're at in their life.
Definitely. So how do the students receive you? You know, you and your information. I know they enjoy the program, but when they meet you, how do they receive you?
I would say it's been very, very welcoming, and I say that because I pride myself on being transparent with students. I'm very vocal about my failures and like my upbringing and the hardships and adversities, and the fact that I'm able to do that, students see me as a real person who
Yeah.
can be vulnerable.
Definitely.
And that's where I do a lot of professional development with teachers who are working with at risk or homeless youth, and I share with them like you have to share that vulnerability with them so they can be vulnerable with you.
Right.
And it just opens up more conversations, and it's a lot easier to challenge them to do better and get better. If they know that you have their best interest.
Yeah. My mom always says, people don't care about how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to have that connectivity to say, okay, yes, this person is doing all of this and bringing this information to us, but he was once us, you know, and feel like they can definitely relate.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk more about Kidpreneur Dreams. Tell us about the program. What's the impact you're seeing from introducing financial literacy and entrepreneurship early on?
Well, Kidpreneur Dreams, yes, most definitely. The first chapter, it's only 3 chapters, and the first starts with social and emotional learning. And this is majorly because a lot of times, even as adults, we didn't realize how our social and emotional behavior impacts our financial spending and budgeting and the way we, you know, spend and control our finances in general. Our emotions, controls that in a way. And so for me, by introducing the social and emotional aspect and then showing them how if you have impulsive behavior, you get some money, now you ready to spend, now you're not saving, now, you just blew money that you could have been saving, or showing them how to invest and understand how patience
Right.
goes into that, so it just allows them to bring it all together and understand why it's so important. And then you tie it with entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur needs both of those aspects,
Definitely.
because everything don't happen overnight. For many successful entrepreneurs, it takes 5 years for a business to be successful. So you got to have patience, resilience, and a lot of and you got to know how to secure funding and make sure that your business is gonna be in the green, pretty much.
So they get all that information in 3 chapters?
Not necessarily. I mean, so the way that it goes, each chapter has, I would say, it has between 12 and 25 terms. So it's really building that literacy foundation. So each chapter, each topic has a definition, example of how to use the sentence, story associated, coloring page, and then at the back of each chapter, there's crossword puzzles and word search. But then again, for the digital interactive piece, I created a Nearpod course that's aligned. So students can come in and they can log into the Nearpod, get a code, and now they can interact with each other. It's discussion boards.
Right.
It's almost like an introduction to social media in a sense as well, because they can
That's
like each
beautiful.
other posts and things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That aligns with our programming. So we have a youth programming called Create Over Consume, because what I did recognize when I first started on this journey was that the youth are going to consume content. Like, this is the era that they grew up in. It's not going anywhere, and there is a positive side to content.
Yeah.
And so our whole goal with Create Over Consume is to teach them how to create and use social media, the internet, content, AI to their advantage, other than just consuming it all day long. And if you are consuming it, consume information that's going to help you
Yeah.
in the future with your business, with your family, whatever the desires of the youth is. And so I really applaud people like us that are creating these programs and these blueprints, because it's a lot out there with the internet, and our youth can just get lost and swallowed up and then get this idea of the world that doesn't really exist.
Most definitely.
So how do you combat that with all the things that you create for the youth? Like, how do you ensure that, or that's not what I want to ask. Do you inform the youth that, hey, this is what we're creating that'll get you on the right path, but there is negativity out there?
It's so funny you say that. Just today, this morning, I had a mentor program, and one of the sessions that I did over the last 2 weeks is understanding influencer marketing.
Yes.
And understanding there's positive influencers, but there's also people who just post things that are controversial or not true, false, just for clickbait, just to get paid. And if somebody can't decipher between what's real and what's not, now they go on and carry those lies and those false truths, and now everything's blurred. So
For sure. So speaking with a purpose, right? What you're not just teaching, you're transforming. What makes your book presentations and your speaking sessions so engaging for young people? I know earlier you talked about being relatable, but what other things really draw people to your programming and your speaking?
I would say my ability to tell my story.
Come on, storyteller.
Yeah, no, it's very impactful. Whenever I start, because a lot of time, like I said, I'll come out in this suit, and then when I share with them, I've never met my father. My mother resorted to alcohol and drugs to provide her balance. I was introduced to 8 different step parents by the time I was in the 8th grade. 2 being white men, 1 being a Hispanic man, 1 being a woman. Then I also moved 2 to 3 years every year in my life up until I went to college. People are just like, I'm looking at their faces when I say it, and it's just like, wow, So it's just, when people come across somebody who's that transparent, it just helps them further connect, and they able to connect with me, and painful times that they may have felt in their lives, and make that connection, and it's just easier for them to come up and talk about something that's traumatic,
Definitely. So even getting to the point where you can be that transparent and share all of that information to inspire others, what was the process like for you? Because I'm sure there was some healing or some self-reflecting or things you had to go through as a man before you could feel comfortable enough to be that transparent with the youth and with others. So what was that like for you?
I would say the first, I guess, light bulb that went off was like, man, this is needed, was when I learned that I was labeled by the state that I was economically disadvantaged, at risk, and a homeless youth. And for me, I felt like, man, if other youth who live in my same circumstances knew that this is what we're being labeled and these are the cards that stacked against us, we would be able to turn that pain into passion a lot earlier and a lot sooner in our lives. And so that's what, led me to being more transparent and more real with, what I went through, because I know there's other people going through those things. It's just some people don't want to talk about those things because they have an image that they want to uphold, whereas that's not, I'm here to connect.
Right. So say, for instance, there's a youth out there where their story is kind of similar to what you said about during your transparency. How can they figure out if they're labeled those things? How would they know? How did you find out?
Well, how I found out was, working in the school systems and identifying like, dang, wait a minute. I was looking back like, dang, I was a part of like these programs where they was taking me to camps, and it was this group of students. And I'll tell you the one biggest thing that happened. I was a sophomore, and I remember going to this one camp in Broadus, Texas. And during the camp, there was a session where the leaders who they were facilitating, they were showing pictures of homeless people, and they brought a picture up, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Wilbert. I know him.
Wow.
This is a guy who, hangs out where my mom takes us after school, and they're drinking and doing all that. So it was like, dang, it was like a harsh reality.
Yeah.
They're just going around taking random pictures, and here it is. I know this guy. So I don't know. For me, that was just really really eye opening, and I just felt like it was just something needed, like to make sure that people understand that you're not the only one going through these things, and you can make it through.
Definitely, for sure. Man, I'm really inspired by the things that you're doing for the youth. So I know educational wise with the books and the speaking engagements, that's one thing. But do you have any like mentorships for like young men who could possibly be, going through some of the things you went through as a young person?
Well, I do mentorship at the schools right now that I'm approved vendor with. I don't have like a program that's outside of the school districts, but I am working on creating a group that young men as well as young ladies can join, just to have a community of people who want to become the best versions of themselves. A lot of these youth, I'm in these schools, man, and it's just so easy for them to be negative towards each other, and they don't understand the impact of just negativity,
Right.
talking down, talking bad, talking, and it's just like, man, just let me come around some people who want the best for you, people who just want to uplift you. You don't always have to shoot people down, so that is something I'm definitely working on, and having that online community for them.
Definitely, because it's needed for sure. Which speaking topics have been most requested or impactful recently, especially around mental health, financial literacy, or career planning?
My favorite, which has been mostly requested, is called "Clout or Careers. What are you chasing?"
Wow.
And again, so an opportunity for me to use my story of my clout chasing days, but also for kids to understand the different types of clout that people chase, whether it's trying to gain likes to go viral on social media, trying to hang with somebody who you feel is popular, but they don't even love you, they don't care about you, but you're doing everything you can just to be seen with this person. I mean, even TikTok challenges and all these things where, kids have ended up dead,
Yeah.
doing TikTok challenges, chasing clout. And so, that presentation, clout or careers, what are you chasing? It really makes them reflect on their daily actions, and are their actions aligning with who it is that they want to become in their career. And again, using my story to also show them a real life example of
Right.
when I was chasing clout, and how many of my peers who were also chasing clout didn't make it past high school, or many of them had to drop out of college. So
Whew, man, this, like I say, I'm a advocate for the youth. Definitely try to do my part in laying out the blueprint or creating a pathway that will work for them. But one thing that I think a lot of us don't do is really take the time to really educate ourselves on what does the youth need? Like, what do they really need so that we can fill in those gaps? And I feel like you and your organization has done a great job in doing that.
thank you.
For sure. How do you bring real life experiences into academic environments in a way that resonates? So I know one is your storytelling, but what other ways do you bring in like guest speakers, or what other ways do you bring those real life experiences to the youth?
Yeah, well, one thing I do is I bring in community partners,
Yep.
just like yourself. But yeah, I bring in community, and I show them examples of who it is that they want to become, or maybe even examples of people who they've never thought or envisioned of becoming.
Definitely.
And so recently, as you were a part of the career day, it was amazing. It left a really lasting impact on those students. Many of them are still talking about. They remember all y'all names.
Yeah.
And so just having those opportunities to bring people in from the outside, it shows those students that there are people outside of here that do care about us, and they're willing to volunteer and take time out their
Definitely.
day to come. So for me, yeah, that community engagement, and bringing it around full circle for the students.
Definitely. I did get to attend that career day, and I was just telling someone yesterday on a at an event we had that I love doing career days. Do I always have the time? Probably not, but that's something I'm going to make the time for, because not only do I feel like the youth needs that, it's an experience for the person. It was an experience for me. You know, just seeing their faces and they're like, man, I've never met anybody that owns their own this. So I never met anybody that does what you do. And it was just amazing. But there's this one particular story of this little girl at the end when they were getting ready to leave out. She came up to me and she, you know, thanked me for coming and speaking with them. And then she asked me how come I didn't tell the class that I was a teenage mom. And so I was like trying to think. I'm like, well, if I didn't tell y'all that, how do you know? You know, did you do your research? But what she said was, she said, well, when we got to ask you questions, you said that you told us your age and then you told us your oldest daughter was 19. So I did the calculations and you had her at 17. And I just was like, wow, you know. But the reason she brought that up was because she had a sister or someone in her family that was in high school that was pregnant. And she could not wait to go back to tell them that life is still possible. Wow. It's not the end of the world. You can still do amazing things. And for me, that was like the icing on the cake. I was like, man, this is why I love coming to career days. Because I walk in there thinking I'm there to teach, you know, or train them up when really we're learning from each other. And it's such a refreshing experience to see the youth be exposed to something they've never been exposed to before.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Definitely. So what is it like organizing events like that? Do you get, are people usually like, cool, we with it, we'll be there, or do you have to kind of pull a few strings? How does that work in organizing those type of community events for the youth?
It's fun, but at the same time, it gets stressful, like closer to the dates, because you know, people are volunteering and not getting paid. So at any given moment, they could just say, "Hey, I'm no longer available." So it's for me. I try to make sure that I'm giving people, you know, that information well ahead of time so that they can properly plan. But then also making sure I'm giving the updates needed and all the information needed for everyone to be successful.
I must say that you did a great job with the organization. Like, even though I came in towards the end, like the emails, the instructions, meet here, we'll do this. That's very needed, especially when, you know, people are volunteering their time and they have a lot of things to juggle. So you're doing a great job with organizing the events.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's interesting. Because I'm able to, since I have participated in many career days myself, I'm able to know, like, okay, as a career day presenter, this is how I would want to feel most comfortable. I just did another career day, and it was nothing like the one I put together. I mean, I had to only had 20 minutes. I'm having to rotate rooms upstairs, downstairs. I mean, it actually like discouraged me to like put up my poster and do like I'm having to set up my presentation in every classroom. And so I was afterwards, I was like, well, I'm really glad I did mine the way I did, because
Definitely.
I see how this could have been a complete
I've been to a few that I've been to some great ones, actually. I've been blessed, but I have been to a couple that it just was like, okay, you know, there is some more organization. It's not the best experience for the presenter, you know, especially when you have to rotate classes and stuff. It's like, wait, where am I going? Oh, it's on K-Hall. I'm like, this is my first time here. I have no idea what K-Hall is. But so I want to transition to our thought leader segment. And, you know, this is where I want to position you as a thought leader, which you already are, but I want you to be able to give that information straight to our audience. So first thing is curriculum to customization. Your offer licensing and customization for schools and organizations. Why was it important to create flexible solutions for different communities?
I think it was important because, you know, every district, every community may have their own need.
Yeah.
And since I'm self-published, I have the ability to customize, and that allows a lot of flexibility. So, prime example, you know, 100 Black Men here in Houston, they have a mentoring organization. I was a part of Collegiate 100. And so they actually adopted my Pastor Torch book with the Facilitators Guide as their official mentoring program.
Wow.
And that just showed me, you know, again, it was created because I understood that, one, I can't be facilitating everything everywhere. So it allows me the opportunity to share my knowledge and resources with others who can now take that information and further connect with their youth. And I still have, you know, a partial impact.
Yes.
Because of that,
Okay. What's your approach to meeting schools where they are, which you just talked about, especially those facing limited resources and high needs?
You know, one of the things I do, and again, I mentioned this earlier, is just community collaborations.
Yeah.
There are banks and places who have funding that want to invest in like resources or find a way to get into schools, and so I use that as an opportunity to partner with banks to provide maybe a small amount of funding so that we can either get books or programming. But I always try to be flexible because, again, I understand that many of these schools have small budgets or
Yeah.
budget cuts, and I never want to allow that to like stop the impact. So, as a CEO, we have to be creative with
Definitely.
how we get secure funding. So,
For sure. That I think that's very important that you mentioned that about being creative to secure funding and thinking outside the box. Because there are needs, especially with the youth. You definitely have to meet them where they are. And the schools are already what's the best way I want to put this? Just limited with
yeah,
resources, and
yeah,
the staff there overworked, and in my opinion, underpaid for the value that they bring. So I do believe that getting creative with the funding and bringing in programs that can still meet the kids at the point of their need, but not putting so much extra stress on the school itself.
definitely.
So, personal power and future vision. Your personal testimony is so powerful. How has sharing your own story of adversity shaped the way students respond to you? So, I know we talked about that earlier, but I mean, I want to speak specifically like that moment when you do share the story. I know you talked about like the reactions they get, but what are the conversations? What is the feedback that you're getting when you're able to share your story in full transparency?
I mean, it's funny because I had kids coming, man, you got it out the mud, like, I mean, it's just because they think that anybody with this type of lifestyle have to go and end up being a rapper or
Right.
go and end up, trying to go to. So for me, it's great because they now see that I'm so approachable. They come up, dab me up, and just talk to me like I'm one of their own family members,
Yeah.
who that they can trust. And so I think it just breaks down a lot of barriers up front that would initially be there for others. I spoke at Region 4 event. Many homeless youth, were considered homeless youth. I put it like that. And there was just a young lady there. She never opened up, but at the end, she just came over to the booth and just shed tears and cried, and said that like my story really really showed her that there's more life to live after high
Definitely.
school, because it's so many times that many students, and I remember being in that age, you don't have a vision for life after high school, and based on where you could be from, you may think that there's no life after 25.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna get into the stuff that I was doing, but I mean, really and truly, man, like depression and all those things are so real, and that's why I can talk about the time that I tried to commit suicide, like, and you just never know who's in that audience who was thinking about that because
Definitely.
they didn't have a vision for life after high school, and now they just thinking like, man, I'm not accepted to no colleges, I don't got no jobs, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I just think death is the best thing for me,
Yeah.
and so it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things that have to be talked about so that they can, get over their own hurdles and see that there's a lot more life to live.
Definitely, for sure. Where do you see Sterling Empowerment going next? Like, what's your vision for the next 3 to 5 years?
For me, I want to definitely become an approved and certified vendor for TEA, so that I can continue partnering with more organizations and districts here in the Texas and surrounding area.
What's TEA?
Texas Education Association.
Okay.
And so they're the ones, when it comes to curriculum standards, they set all the standards for all of the districts here in Texas. And so if you're an approved vendor of them, you
You
pretty
on.
much, yeah, you can go where you need to go. But for me, I want to I'm gonna build my foundation, the Sterling Empowerment Foundation, because I have been only operating as an LLC, and now I see the opportunities that can come with having that nonprofit foundation. And so just in a process of, continuous improvement.
Yes.
And for me, that's figuring out the model that's going to work that can also be agile and scale. And at the same time still staying true to the values and the things that I care about the most, which is at-risk homeless youth.
For sure. For sure. So have you ever thought about doing like I guess you're kind of doing it with your partners, but like training up trainers. So having a program where people can come and get certified to actually teach your programs and your curriculums. Is that something that's already created, or is that something that you ever thought about?
No, that's something that with TEA, and that's what, so if I can, once I become like a certified like CTE program, people can actually come and get certifications, and and everything will be legit. And so that is something that's in the works. So just trying to take it one step at a time, but definitely something that's in the works.
For sure, for sure. Okay. If you could embed one skill or mindset into every young person today, what would it be?
It would be resiliency.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just say that because regardless, of your age, we all have to go through life, and life is gonna bring challenges. Life is gonna bring ups and downs, and as long as you can get through them, there's always sunshine on the other side.
For sure.
And even sometimes that sunshine, you still gonna have to make it through to the dark again.
Yeah.
So you just gotta understand the power of being resilient, and knowing that you can, be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got a couple fun questions before we close out today.
Okay.
All right. Classroom to boardroom. What's one soft skill every student should master?
Communication.
Okay. I agree. Why communication though?
I mean, because a lot of these students will try to talk to anybody and everybody the same way.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, when you're trying to elevate in your life, you have to be able to be versatile and be able to communicate effectively with whoever it is you're speaking with. And everybody's not going to speak the same language with that, you may talk in your household or amongst your friends. You have to use communication as a skill to get what it is that you want out of life.
For sure, for sure. Favorite city you've spoken in?
Favorite city I've spoken in is Florida.
Okay, you gotta go. If it's not Houston, somebody get him out of here.
I mean,
Nah, I'm just kidding. Because I know you're from Lufkin, but Houston is not that far. But you say it's gonna be Florida? Well, that's a state, but
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Well, Orlando, I'm sorry. and the only reason why I said it was the favorite was because it was at the Ritz-Carlton. And that was the first time I ever went. And so it was like, yeah, that was my favorite for sure.
For sure, hands down. A book that changed your perspective?
It's crazy as it may sound. It ain't crazy, but Jay Prince book.
Okay.
It was never a time like it's interesting. I did not want to put his book down. Like it's like as I'm reading it, I could hear him talking to me, and just seeing everything he went through, and just the power that he have now, and knowing where he came from. Like it's just something that really changed me, and even my own books. It was like, okay, you can have your own style of writing. You don't have to, be okay, it has to be this way or that way so that it can appeal to everyone. No, like creative writing is okay.
Yeah, sure. For sure. And last question under this segment. If you could talk to your 10-year-old self, what would you tell him?
10th grade. So I had to be in about the 4th grade. Lord. If I could talk to my 10-year-old self, I probably would just tell him to keep living, keep living, and just make sure that you surrounding yourself with people who want the best for you. And like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about a lot of my family situations then, but like it's okay to be raised by a village. Like, you know, like I was raised really truly raised by a village, and at times like it seems like you don't have anywhere to go or anywhere that's meant for you because you're so used to bouncing around. And so I would just say that there's beauty in the struggle.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, this has been a great conversation, Sterling. I've been saying this whole time. I just admire the work that's being done because I know that it's not easy. I know on the other side, organizing programs, coming up with curriculum, making time to write out the books and all of that takes work, a lot of work. I'm
Yeah.
sure it does. So I just commend you on the work that you're doing. Your work is shifting the culture of education and empowerment in real time. So thank you for pointing to our future leaders. How can schools, parents, or organizations connect with you to bring your programs or your speaking to their communities?
Yeah, well, if you like on Facebook, I have a community called Empowered Community that I'm currently building. I also have a website, Sterling Empowerment, email Sterling at Sterling Empowerment. And so you can always reach me directly, and even LinkedIn is one of the most powerful tools I use, and I'm always active. So,
Okay. So, to our audience, the next generation needs more than motivation. They truly do, y'all. They need strategy and support. Thank you again, Sterling, for all you're doing. Anybody else out there that's creating blueprints and pathways for our next generation, thank you for the work that you're doing. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep empowering. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Business Talks with Jazmin J. Like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace.